So today I want to talk about the difference between an Open Pro and an Elite Pro or top level Pro. And a lot of people say, some of the Open Pros are just as good as the Elite Pros, and that's probably the case. And there's probably a lot of guys who fish a lot who don't fish a lot of open tournaments or things that would probably do very well in the Elite Series just because they're darn good anglers. But there's a lot of anglers who aren't really that good as an angler, I would say. What they're good at is the whole acquiring information deal. So here's what happens. I fished the Opens for a couple years, and I had 2 top 5 finishes, and I had some bombs. But I did it on my own. I got almost no help whatsoever doing it. I figured it out on my own, and I sank or swam basically on my own merits. And and you say, well, you could have did better if I got help. Well, maybe I could have, maybe not. But a couple years ago, I came a couple lost big fish, which would have moved me up, 30, 40 points in 2 different tournaments from qualifying for the Elite Series. And that's just the way that goes, There's nothing you can do about that sometimes. It's just wanting your time. But here's what happens in the Opens. You have a different set of rules for the Opens, the Bassmaster Opens, than you do for the Bassmaster Elite Series. And with a different set of rules, you're going to get a different outcome. And in the Opens, what you get with a lot of these Open Pros is in the Opens, there's nothing against gathering information. Gather all the information that you want, personal, private, public, anything from your friends. Hire guides. Have people who are experts on the lake take you out on the lake, as long as you don't do it during official practice, which is 3 days or so before the tournament starts. And so they gather all this information. They get all these waypoints, if it's a waypoint type of place. They're told what lures to throw, where to throw them, when to throw them. And so they have all that information. Well, in the Elite Series, there's a no information rule. Once the venue is announced and you're an Elite Series pro, you're not allowed to accept information from anybody who's not actually fishing a tournament against you. Nothing at all except that which is publicly available to everybody. So you can't get your waypoints, you can't talk to local experts, you can't hire guides and all those type of things. So then we got another issue. In the Elite Series, you have a 30-day cutoff, right? You can practice 2.5 days before the tournament. Anytime before 30 days you can practice, which a lot of times puts you in a different season altogether from what the fish are going to be doing. And a lot of these Open Pros, I witnessed myself, I even talked to people who practice for 2 weeks straight or even a month straight every day before these open tournaments, and they basically become a local expert on each lake as they go there. And so that gives them a pretty big advantage than somebody who's coming in and fishing for 2 or 3 or 4 days before the tournament. Well, in the Elite Series, guess what? You can't do that. So, I got nothing against hard work, and it's admirable that somebody's work ethic would allow them, to practice 30 days in a row or 2 weeks in a row before the tournament, but it just doesn't translate into the Elite Series. And so what happens when these guys qualify for the Elite Series through the Opens, and they did it on the backs of friends, guides, connections, waypoints, excess practice, none of that stuff is going to translate into the Elite Series. Because once you get to the Elite Series, you're going to have to be able to do it yourself. Some of them, obviously, there's people in the Elite Series who work together in small groups of 3 or 4, and maybe that gives them a little bit of an advantage, but there's no rule against that. But, you're going to have to do it yourself. So that's why you see so many Open Pros who come into the Elites, with the exception of very few, who come into the Elites who are average to bottom of the pack finishers in almost every tournament, because they didn't do it the same way. Once they get to the Elites, they got to do it a different way. So it's just not going to work for you. And it's kind of like on YouTube here, there's a lot of people who have YouTube channels who buy subscribers to give the appearance that their YouTube channel is better than it actually is. And basically that's what you're doing in the Opens. When you buy your way into the Elites, you're just not going to have a very good elite career, and unless you can just hold on every year and stay at that bottom 10 and you're independently wealthy, you're going to go away in 2, 3, 4 years. You're going to go away. You're just not going to be able to sustain that level of competition because you didn't prove that you could do it in the Opens. So I said something to Bass a while back in a poll. What should they do with the Opens? Make the same rules in the Opens as you have in the Elites. If you're qualifying people for the Elites from the Opens, they shouldn't be qualifying on 2 different sets of rules. In the Opens, it should be no information. It should be the same practice period of time as in the Elites. And then you'll find out who can actually translate from an Open Pro to an Elite Pro. That's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.